which are focal points, focos, of what my session is going to look like, and that's going to be shooting and transition drills today. At the top, you're going to see kind of like just some notes that I put up. Last year I talked a little bit about like setting the example and setting your emphasis. What I want to talk a little bit more about today is what is your why. I think it's really important. We focus so much on our student athletes that we forget to focus on ourselves sometimes. Like, why do we coach? You have good days and bad days just like your athletes do, right? I mean, you had a bad day, you spilled your coffee in the car, you were late to work, you had such and such, it's all building up, and then all of a sudden you're in front of 10 to 15 young and very impressionable boys and girls, right? And so how do you respond to that? You always need to remember what your why is. Why do you coach? Why are you here? What's your impact that you're going to have? So last year I talked a lot about like setting your emphasis for your team. This year I want to make sure that you're always reminding yourself what is your current why every day you step on the court. Some of our stuff that we're doing this year as a team, some of our emphases are this concept called hard right. So we talk a lot to our team about hard right versus easy wrong. Making the hard choices that are often right. So at the college level, that might be not being on social media super late. You can apply this in high school and even middle school nowadays. But not being on social media super late when you have a game the next day. That sleep becomes very important. So that's a hard right decision to put your phone down and go to bed versus the easy wrong, staying up, being on social media, and not getting enough rest before the day of the game. There's a lot of examples. Diving on the loose ball, diving on the floor for a loose ball, that's a hard right decision. You're making a choice to dive for that ball. So that's one of our concepts this year. We give an award at the end of every practice on our hard right. Who did we feel like brought it the most that day and really gave to their team? We also talk a lot about believing it, walking, and speaking it. A lot of people have really great beginning of the team year meetings, right? Like you walk in with your team, you get all hyped, you set your goals, like, we're gonna win a championship! And then you walk out of the meeting and there's people like, oh, God, you suck today, and like, oh, this drill didn't work, or blah, 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 and all of a sudden that belief goes way, way down, right? So you gotta believe it first. If you're gonna talk it, you gotta believe it, and you gotta walk it. So we talk to our team all the time about how do you speak to each other, and how do you walk? Like, how do you walk with your shoulders up? So two things with that. One, speaking. We talk a lot in absolutes. So a lot of people will say, oh, if you go get that, if we out-rebound this team, then we will win. Well, what happens if you don't out-rebound that team? Does that really mean you're going to lose? In their head, they think that. It's counter to it. So instead of saying if-thens, we don't speak in if-thens, we speak in absolutes. We will be the best rebounding team at our conference. We will win a conference championship. We use the concept of we will way more than if-thens. So try to change your language as a coach because players will pick up on that even if it's subconsciously. That's talking about speaking it. Talking about walking it. There's a really great TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. I wrote it down on the sheet. Look it up. Watch it. It's 21 minutes. You guys should watch it too. Amy Cuddy. Okay? TED Talk. Her whole thing is on power stances. And it talks a lot about how if you stand in a power stance, and there's a lot of different ways to power stance. This is one of them. Like I could stand here. If you stand in a power stance for like 2 minutes, your shoulders are back, your head is up, it raises your testosterone level and lowers your cortisol. There's like tons of research, she talks all about it. There's a great power stance example at the door. Thanks, Coach. But it is a really great TED Talk, and it is really important for our student athletes nowadays to understand the value of being confident in their shell. I can't tell you how many women I see walking around hunched over like this, or sitting in film sessions like this, or even on the bench after they've made mistakes, sitting with their arms crossed. That is weakness. That is a sign of weakness. It means that they don't have confidence in themselves. It means they're doubting themselves. You need to get them to the point where even when they're making mistakes, they are still chest up and they are believing in who they are and what you are going to do that season. All right? So that's the part about walking it. All right, on the very back, I gave you our daily check-in sheet. Now, I gave you this last year. If you attended the clinic, it looks very, very different than last year. Okay, the thing that is different this year than last year, so every day when our players walk into practice, I create this sheet. And I keep them throughout the entire year, all right? The quote is always something that I feel like we need. So our quote of the day team, is not everyone can be an all-star, but everyone can be an all-star in their role, okay? And so our team gets this before practice, and they, instead of while they're stretching, they're studying this stuff. They're gonna read the quote, they're gonna read through the focal points. This is one of ours from recent practices. They're going to read through the focal points and they're going to have this circle, which we don't step in a circle anymore, we step in a lane. We do this concept called 2 feet in. So like we're 2 feet in everything we do. And there's a lot of meaning behind it. It's 2 feet in with our hearts, 2 feet in with our heads. Our minds are here, our bodies are here. But it's also, we want to get to the paint and get to the free throw line. So we're going to get 2 feet in that paint when we drive to the basket. So there's a lot of different concepts with this. So we actually huddle in the free throw line area now. I do 2 feet in. But when we huddle up in that 2 feet in area, then they are regurgitating this information to me. I am not saying it to them. Now, what we've added this year that is a little different, and this comes more from our strength and conditioning side of things, is this nutrition concept. So what they do is they fill out a number system. So W equals water. How much water have you drank today before practice in terms of ounces? Now, our players in a day, does anyone here know how much water you're supposed to drink in a day? Half your body weight. Huh? Half your body. Actually, the full amount of your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you're supposed to get 150 ounces if you're a student athlete in water. Now I guarantee you most of your student athletes are probably getting about 20 to 30 ounces of water, which is not enough. You expect them to be at a high level in practice and they're burning off that much water and sweat before they walk out of the gym. Alright, so we ask them how much water in ounces they've had before they hit practice. Their food intake, on a scale of 1 to 5, how did you eat today? In essence, did you have breakfast? Did you eat healthy stuff for lunch? Like, where are you at from a food perspective? Maybe they didn't eat. Maybe they didn't have time for breakfast in the morning, so their number might be a 2, all right? This all weighs into how I'm going to coach them in practice. The S is how many hours of sleep did you get the night before? Most injuries occur in the game of basketball when people are not mentally focused. So it's a lot of times, it's not always contact injuries. A lot of it is their bodies are breaking down, which means their minds have been breaking down. They're not getting enough rest, they don't have enough nutrition, they don't have enough water. So these help guide me. Do I need to lessen my practice? Maybe your student athletes have had a hard week in their classes. And so they're not sleeping as much because they're up studying really late. Well, that's really good for you to know. And the last one is your number. So what is your number? On a scale of 1 to 5, how are you today? And I think it's really important that you guys know this because a lot of times we walk into practice with a mentality, we had a terrible game last night, I'm going to burn them into the ground, we're going to run, you're just already mad, and then you walk in and all of a sudden you see that their numbers are 1s and 2s. Well, they're already beating themselves up, for 1. And for 2, if they're not beating themselves up at that point, or if they're at a 4 and you're at a 2, then there's a disconnect, right? And so you know, like, okay, get on a little harder today. They're at 4s. But if they're at 2s, you don't need to get on that hard. You need to make it more of a fun practice, an uplifting practice, because you're not going to get anything out of them. They're not fully checked in. Hopefully that makes sense. Anybody have any questions on it? Feel free to email. Let's get in the drill, which is what we are here for, right? All right, you guys ready? Yeah. Come on. All right, we're going to do the first drill we're going to do, and everybody can ball. They're already split up. So I like to do warm-up games. I like to get them hyped. I like to get them having fun at the beginning of practice. So we do a lot of things like communication circles. I can send you a number of drills. The ones we're going to show you today is called cops and criminals. Okay? So this is a ball handling one. And let's say black team, you're going to be the cops. Okay? And white team, you're going to be the criminals. All right, so what you do is you tell your team that you pick any line on the court. Anywhere. You go anywhere you want on the court. Now, logos don't count. So if you have a logo on the floor, this area doesn't count. And you can't go outside of the main black line. Am I clear? So like you can't teeter this line and get on the outside of the court. You have to stay within the court. Everybody understand the rules so far? Okay. Any line, it can be used. So like, there you go. You gotta be on line. So those lines can be used, these lines can be used. And in essence, you're playing dribble tag. The cops are chasing criminals. Okay? You guys are running away from the cops. Now here's how it changes up. Let's say I'm on this white line and I'm chasing her. And she moves to a black line. I can't tag her from a white line to a black line. I have to be on the same color line. Does that make sense? So if you have to be on the same line, I'm still chasing her. Maybe they see it around. We're trying to like box her into a corner. That's the goal, right? Now, let's say I tag someone. I tag you. You go to jail with the center court. Okay? So immediately she's in jail and now I'm chasing somebody else. Alright, the only way she can get out of jail is if one of her teammates comes and tags her. So like if another criminal is running, you go here farther, and I tag you, now you can get back to the line. Does that make sense? Alright. So, the other really cool part about it is at some point as a coach, I'm going to number you guys if you're a cop. So 1, 2, point in time, usually I go about 30 seconds. I'm going to call a number out. So I'm going to say, like, we're going, and I'm going to call 4, right? So who is number 4? All right, wherever you are, you're going to pop into a space. So you're no longer a cop. She's moved to a detective. All right? Now, detectives are tippers. So, like, let's say she's coming out, and now she's standing here. She can't tag somebody out, but she's trying to tip the ball. So as she goes on that line, she's trying to tip. But she has to stay in whatever box that she has determined she's in. She cannot cross a line. She can't jump into another space. She can't hop. She's got to stay in this little box. And anybody that comes around, she's trying to tip. It makes people have to make crossovers and be on the run. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, you guys want to play? Yeah. It's really fun. All right. Because they're pretty good. Now, one thing I didn't tell you is if you are a criminal, or you can hop from line to line. And hop. Sorry. So, like, if I'm here and she's coming, I can hop, but I have to land on the line. Now, you guys are not really running lines. I saw a lot of this. All right. So the goal is like you gotta hit this point and like really take off on the line. Boom. Like you gotta really try to do everything you can to stay on the line. All right. We're trying one time. We're not switching it over because that's. Here, I'll start it. Oh, you can answer that, so you guys can figure it out. we want to teach rebound, Superman rebounding is what it's called. So your hands are up all the time. So as a coach, I may stand here on the first one, just to make her do Superman rebounding. Your hands are automatically up. Good. She's going to shoot the ball. Good. Now you're going to make a left-handed pass because we're going to this side of the court, and you're going to start running. Now we're going to slow down because you got to see how the drill goes. As soon as you make this pass, you are crossing off of her back. Oh, you're moving to that next one. To that outside, yep, right down there. And you're going to make a pass here. Good, you're still running straight, and you're going to go straight across. Boom, you're going to make this pass here, and you're going to go for the leg. Don't get friction on the feet. Go back. Yep, right about here, and then you're going all the way down to that one. And immediately you're taking out, you're going. You should be on this side all the time. Yeah. Good. Now, stop. Now, after you make this one, you're going to start following. Good. You're going to do pass. Good. And now you're going to start following the feet. Good. You're running over. Yes. Now, stop. You are going to come in and throw that off the back. Am I coming? Yep. Superman, you guys should come in and go, okay. You should be right behind her. Superman coming in. Yep. Yep. Go out black. Go out black. And now you're finishing. Good. So you guys can shuffle out and go to the next line down. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you are just a scorer. So you go there. Boom, boom. You just finished the rebound. So as soon as you get here and you pop that, you're going to keep your hands up because again, we're not putting our hands down. So when we finish this layup, we don't put our hands down like this. We finish our layup, we're here. Superman. Right? Then I'm making this lead pass. Boom, I'm going. You're following behind me. Pass, pass, pass. Got it? It's called lead pass. You get some hands up the court. Really focus on the transition aspect. All right, that's it. So I'm a really big finisher person, so I'll say we gotta make 10 on the left side in a row. So once we get that, I put a time up there, I say we got 5 minutes for the whole drill. We gotta make 10 on the row on the right and 10 on the row on the left. And if we don't get it, so let's say we get to the right side and we get to 5 and we miss one and then we hit one and our time runs out, we only have 1. Well then they owe me 9 inspirational activities, as Lauren from Ribbon would say. So then that makes them really focus on the finish aspect because it gets really important when you miss that and it puts pressure on it. If you're that 10th shooter, now all of a sudden you become a person where you have to hit. If you're not good at tipping, that's fine. Have them just go up and collect, re-throw it off the backboard, go collect, re-throw it off the backboard, go collect. Don't do something that's outside of their wheelbox. Don't try to make them into the super athlete player. Make them more fundamental and make them good at something. But you saw a lot of them were running in with their hands down. right? Instead of when they get towards that rebound, putting their hands up for the Superman. So for me, after a couple of days of doing this drill, I would blow my whistle and say that doesn't count, you're back to 0. Because we had somebody that didn't have their hands up. The details of the drills become really important. Teaching the details and holding them accountable to the details is what really matters. Because at the end of the game, when you're sitting in that 30-second timeout and you're drawing up a play and you need them to run it exactly how you drew it up, the details that you hold them accountable to in practice will come into play. All right? So hold them accountable in practice so that they have the details right in the game. All right. Nice job. You guys are awesome. 2 claps. All right, so we're going to move into some shooting drills. Who's a direct shooter? Who wants to be the shooter? All right, then I got a passer or rebound. I'll do a passer. And 2 balls. Good passer. I'll be right here. My rebounder. Right there. Good. And you're my shooter, right? All right. I need a cone here on top of the knee. Then 1 on each wing. I need 1 more of this cone. All right, so this is an individual shooting drill. You can run it with 1 person. You can also have 2 people going at the same time. So you can run the same 3 cones down there at the 3-point line wing. You can run it at 15 foot or 3. We call it 3-6-9. 3-6-9 shooting. So if you're my shooter, you're going to start at the top. All right, and you're just going to give a pitch pass on this first one, all right? And you can be on the side of the cone, so you don't, usually we have smaller cones, but I just don't want you to land and sprain an ankle. Coach will kill me. All right, you're shooting 3, right? Okay, so she's going to take this first shot. You got it, go. Bucket. All the way to the right wing. And then you take the next shot. See? Good. And then you're going to run, right? You're going to run right across the lane line, straight across. You have to go. Okay. To get in here, you're going to turn your hips really quick, and you're going to make this next shot. Boom. Yes, she went 3 in a row. So she has no running. So you just go back to the top of the key. And you take more shots. Keep it going. Let's see what you see. So everything is a set of 3, right? So she missed 1 out of that set. So she runs around the first cone and runs right back in and does it again. Okay? I'll get to the scoring in a second. There you go. Like that. Now, the thing about it is you're going to have some players that are going to miss some. I get some of my girls and they're like 3 cone. I'm like, oh, great. And then the dolly. Now it's a conditioning shooting drill because it is a fast pace. And what we tell our shooters, what we see so much is that our shooters, they don't understand the concept, be quick but don't hurry, which is a great John Wooden quote. And if you haven't read that book, it's a great book. But be quick, don't hurry, with the concept of not rushing your shot. So many times in games, we get shooters out there and the defense is coming at them and they just start throwing it to the basket because they see defense. So we talk about the speed between the shots, all right? So when she takes this first shot, she lands, she nails it. The pace at getting to the next spot is what's important. Then staying in her shot, taking her rhythm shot, and then the pace at getting to the next one. And then bust and tail around these cones if you have to, right? So you can have somebody else going at the same time, and they may be running at the same time. They give each other 5s on the way out, but hopefully you don't have somebody that's not running. Our record for makes in a row is at 22 right now. So we had one of our seniors yesterday hit 22 on these. Now scoring-wise, the way it works is you always have to hit the first shot to get any points. So this is worth 3, then you get the next one, you get 6, 9. So let's say you hit this one, miss that one, hit that one, you only have 3. Because you've got to hit all of them to get to 9. Does that make sense? You don't get 6 points just because you hit these 2. You've got to hit them in a row to get the 9 points. Alright? So let's try this one. Go ahead. 2 seconds. I'll let you guys score. 3! 15 footers. If you really want to get them running, you can space those ones down to the corners. So now they're having to run from here to corner, across the baseline, and then going 3-6-9. So you can switch up where you're taking your shots from easily. We go for a certain amount of time. We like to go for 3 minutes because by the time you hit that 3rd minute, the shot starts changing. You really start seeing a difference. So that's 3-6-9. All right. You want to get 3 more people, or you want to keep going? What do you guys think? Sub them out if you want to sub out. Anybody want to sub in? Somebody wants to sub out. No? Okay. And then the rest of you guys pick up my comments. All right, so this is going to go rebounder first. All of you are going to be shooting now. Since you're so hot, let's have you start. All right, you're going to start the corner open. I'm not going to start the ball. All right, and you're on your screen. All right. Okay, so here's the way that this drill works. It gets the next person, in essence, ready. You would have a line of people, so you have like more people out here, but we're going to work it with these 3 so we can work on it. We'll do it. You're not screaming for me. Okay, so she's going to take a layup, driving on the baseline, keeping your shoulders square to the back, or that's her first shot. So I wrote out the 7 shots for you on there, so go ahead. You're going to take 1 shot here, you're going to back up to the 3-point line, open the second ball. Sorry. And then I'm going to pass it to you again. You're going to take a 1 dribble pull up. Good, there's 2. Good, and you're going to take a 3. Okay. Next. Now, you're going to go set a down screen for it. Okay, so you're going to come to set a down screen. Now, you can call anything you want as a coach. So because we're working off screen. So I can say curl, which means the defense is chasing her. I can say pop, which means the defense went underneath, flare, you can call whatever screen you want. So right now I'm going to say curl, boom. Now, here's the rule. Yep, and you're going to take. As soon as she passes you and you set the screen, you have to drop down and make 3 push-ups. Good. So you can do that, right? Good. As soon as you finish your shot or whatever it is, you're going to pop up and come and set a flare screen for it. So she curled it right. Can you take a pull up? Boom. Let's do 2 push-ups there. You don't hold on. So you shoot. Boom. And your 2 push-ups. Now you're going to come and set a flare screen for it. I'm going to have another ball here. Boom. Now we're hitting off this flare. Do 2 push-ups. Great. Now you're running in half court, running back in for or you can do it at 2 ends, however you want to do it. I like to keep my team all at 1 end because the energy picks up, and also because I can see everything then. I don't know. As a head coach, I want to be able to see it. A lot of you guys don't have as many staff members as I have working in practice, so if you run things at 2 ends, you're like really shifting where you're having to watch 1 end and not getting a chance to watch both ends. So I put them at 1 end so I can see them all. Any questions on that drill? All right, this is a really fun. Yay. It's called bucket. So this is one that we call bucket or rebound. Really fast, say bucket fast. Bucket or rebound. Bucket or rebound. Isn't that a good name? Bucket or rebound. All right. And we do repeat everything. That's why I'm like looking at them, like waiting for them to repeat me. So like if I say the name of a drill, they're gonna repeat it. If I say you got 2 shots and then down and back, they're gonna say 2 shots down and back. They repeat everything I say. This generation,